quick shout out to our sponsor before we dive in. Is your rig looking a little dull? Railsback Polishing and Chrome Shop is your go-to to keep everything looking brand new. Their no appointment needed drive-through polishing bay opens in July, and you'll be in and out in under 3 hours with full metal restoration done the right way. The Chrome retail shop is coming soon too with a lounge, food, drinks, and all the extras. Call Keaton at 712-269-8352 or stop by their express polishing bay located at 1290 Dean Ave in Shaler, Iowa, and check them out. Welcome to the Rural Dispatch, the podcast delivering stories from rural America. I'm your host, Allie Behrens. Headquartered in rural Iowa, I help run a nationwide livestock transportation company, and I'm here to bring you stories from the people who help shape this industry and our rural communities. Whether you're a trucker, livestock producer, or rural entrepreneur, this show is for you. Each week, we explore the realities of rural business life, from the highways to the fields and everything in between. So buckle up and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back. Today, we are going to chat with a farmer, cattle feeder, and a board member on our Carroll County Cattlemen's Association. So, we have Justin Heiman. Justin, welcome to the podcast. This is exciting. Is this your first podcast?
Yes. I'm very nervous.
No need to be nervous. It's harmless, I promise. So you are a farmer?
Yes.
Cattle feeder?
Yep.
Anything else?
I custom feed pigs.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's not my favorite thing to do, but
a little extra.
Pays the mortgage.
Extra cash. Yeah. Did your family farm? Did you grow up on a farm?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in Carroll, and then
in town?
In town, yeah.
Okay.
And then my grandma and grandpa had a farm like a mile outside of town, and my dad farmed that and raised cattle there. And when I was really young, like 4 or 5, he farrowed, and then he got out of that. So when I was younger, I'd always ride my bike out there. So I lived in town, but I grew up out at the farm. So
I was kind of saying, well, we didn't live in town, but we lived on an acreage. So it was like you got the farm experience, but you didn't live on the farm.
Right. That's kind of the way it was.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, when I was younger, it was kind of nice because you had the town aspect of you were close to your friends.
Yes.
So you could do that, but then also the farm was close enough to town that I could just ride my bike out there whenever I wanted to. So
that's actually really nice.
Yeah, it's actually when I was really young, I had some friends that lived on farms, out on gravel roads and stuff, and I just wanted that in the worst way. But looking back, I think the way that it worked out was actually good.
You kind of got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. Did your parents, were they involved on the farm at all, or was it just your grandpa?
No, so from when I can remember, my grandpa was retired, but my grandpa lived on the farm. And then my dad lived in town, had a house in town, and then he rented the farm from my grandparents.
Okay.
And then he raised cattle and hogs for a little while. I vaguely remember that. But the whole time growing up, he always had cattle out there. He would buy lightweight heifers, 500 pounds in the spring. There's a pasture out there, and he'd run them on the grass. And then he'd chop earlage in the fall, then feed them out through the fall and winter, and then sell them in February.
Okay.
And he did that every year, basically.
That was his deal.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yep.
Just
he's very old school.
Yeah, stuck in his ways a little bit.
Yeah.
Change is bad.
Yeah.
I think that's common for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Did you work on the farm at all, with your dad?
Oh, yeah. So like I said, he was pretty old school, so he still square-baled hay. We did that.
Yeah, that takes a few extra hands to get accomplished.
But when I was younger, I thought it was cool because it's I'm a farm kid out here working, and all this stuff. So I always thought it was cool. Then we get some friends that come out and bail, and we just thought it was cool. They were out there actually working and stuff. So, And then I was in 4-H, so I had some 4-H cattle out there, which we were cleaning out one of the rooms upstairs in our house. I got a bunch of stuff in. Then I found an old 4-H book. It's kind of interesting, especially with today's cattle markets. But it was in 2005. We always sold our fat cattle at Dunlap at their fat cattle sale. Mm-hmm. And I had the ticket there, and it was a 1,200-pound heifer for 75 cents.
No way.
That's what it brought 20 years ago.
Crazy. That is fun to look back
on. Well, even I think that first pen of fat cattle that I sold, I want to say they're around like $1.40, I think is what I sold those for. So, I mean, we're a whole dollar higher than that right now.
Yep. Yeah. Who would have guessed?
Yeah. So my dad used to square bale hay, and then he used to put it up in the barn, but he didn't use a bale elevator. He used a bale fork. So it would like stick the bales and you had to use a tractor. Then it would lift it up with the rope. Then it would slide it back in the barn and you had to trip it. So then he had a farm all age. There's no power steering or nothing. I think I was like 8 or 9. And then usually
he did not put you on that.
I was the youngest. So usually I never like got to do these jobs because I had older siblings that would always do it. But for some reason, everybody else was gone. So I had to do it. And then I remember you have to back up and, and I'm like trying to look back because you had to back between a gate hole too, trying not to hit stuff. And then my dad's yelling at me while I'm doing this. And I had no idea what I was doing. And we got through it though.
Oh my gosh. That's a dad thing. As a mom, I would be like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
He's 8 or 9 or whatever, but
my parents were divorced, so mom wasn't there.
no mom to yell at. That's so true. I feel like as a kid too, you're like, oh, I can do that. How hard could it be?
That's a job I did not want to do at all because I would always be there sitting there as my dad's chewing out my siblings.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody could run that tractor right. So then when I think in college, my dad was still square baling some hay, and then he had like a bad knee or something the one year. So he's just like, hey, you stick the rack and I'll run the tractor. So I'm like, okay. So then the one time after you trip it, you pull it back out and then the fork comes down and then sometimes you got to restack the bales on the rack to stick it. So my dad's running it and then he come down and then he drops the fork on top of my head and I'm like, this is my chance.
Did you let him have it?
Yeah.
See, Dad, it's not as easy as it looks.
Exactly.
Just really came full circle.
Yeah. And I like, as I was doing it, I was like kind of laughing to myself because I'm like, I'm just doing this just because
just because he has it coming.
Yeah.
People don't really do square bales anymore.
No.
Like they used to. You used to see them all over the place. Yeah. But
the only people that do it, they've got bale accumulators or whatever. That's about the only. Every once in a while I see some guy square baling a waterway or something, but that's about it.
Yeah. Which is too bad for today's kids. Like I feel like every kid should have to go square bales at some point in their life.
That was another one of me and Chandler's business ventures is his dad had all them waterways and stuff. So then we're like, we should cut and bale these. So then I think we did it for 2 summers. We square baled all that hay and stuff. And that got to be old real quick. And
I bet. Like there's got to be an easier way to make money than this.
Yeah. Especially the one summer. We put a bunch of hay down. It was around 4th of July. And then a bunch of buddies are like, let's go float the river. So we're like, yeah, let's go do it. So then went and floated the river. And do what you do when you float the river. And then we stayed out way too late that night. And then the next day, it was going to rain the day after. So we're like, we got to square bale this hay. So we're out there and, oh, man, we were just sweating and we were just dying. I was like, I don't know if this is worth it anymore. But we needed the hay if we were going to feed the cattle. So,
well, true. Okay, so how did you get into farming? I mean, you're on your own.
Yes.
So how'd you pull that off?
So when I was younger, like I said, I can't remember when, but I just know from really young, I just knew that this is what I loved it. I was just ate up with it, that I always wanted to do it. So like working at my dad's farm, he didn't farm a lot because he also worked in town. So the farm was like his part-time job, you could say. So there wasn't enough there, even for him to be full-time. So like growing up and stuff, I knew that if I wanted to farm, this wasn't going to be the way to do it. So then I had an opportunity to go work for Bob Venner when I was in high school. So I did that. And that's where I learned almost everything that I know about feeding cattle.
Because Bob feeds a good chunk of cattle.
Yeah, he
farms. He's got a lot of
irons in the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is where I would say I learned most of my stuff. And I'm very grateful for that because I learned a lot. And then I worked there for like 10 years, I think. And I learned a lot. And then, so I started there in high school. Then I went to college at DMAC. Then I guess how it got started of actually like doing something like kind of on my own is me and a buddy one night, we're sitting in the living room, we're drinking beer. And then we're looking on Craigslist, and somebody had some feeder pigs for sale. So we're like, and he's like, there's room at my mom's. We can put them in the barn. So we're like, all right. So we went, bought 30 head of feeder pigs. Then when we bought them, everybody's like, what are you going to do with them? And we had no idea. We didn't know where we were going to sell them, how we were going to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
and like, what year was this for reference?
2012, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012.
Okay.
So we did that.
So getting rid of 30 pigs in 2012 was not that easy.
No. So then Bob fed pigs too. And then whatever, I was telling him about this whole deal. Then he's like, what are you going to do with them? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, I got a load of pigs. And then this is when they were fat. He's like, I got a load of pigs going. He's just like, just throw them on my load. So that's what we did. And then we bought more. And then we got up to like 120 head of pigs. And then we're like, this pig thing's going pretty good. Let's buy some cattle. So then...
And that was like the gateway drug, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we bought 19 head of steers, background of those. Did that a few more times. Then we bought a pen of heifers, whole load. It's the first time I bought a whole load of them. That's kind of a funny story too. When we did that, I kind of thought I was invincible. So I was just like, all right, let's buy these cattle. So I called the bank. I'm like, hey, I bought these cattle. And they're just like,
no, you didn't.
Yeah, they're like,
not with our money.
No. So then I had to scramble, and I was like, well, if you won't give me the money, I'll have to ask another bank if they will. And they're like, all right, well, email you your balance sheet. I'm like, oh, crap.
Oh, no. Like they didn't give in.
They did not.
They weren't bluffing.
So then I called the banker who I'm with now, called him up, and he's like, all right, yeah, come in. We'll talk about it, see if it works. So I'm like, okay. So cattle were on the road when I went and talked to him, and he's like, all right, I have to have a meeting with everybody, since you're new and all this stuff. He's like, it looks pretty good. So I'm like, okay. So then that was on a Friday, I think. Then I think Saturday, the cattle showed up, worked them, got them in the pen, ready to go. Monday, the banker called me, said, everything looks good, so come in and sign all the papers and stuff. So did that. Then I had to go back in there on Wednesday or something of that week to do some other stuff. Then he's like, how do the cattle look? Did they come in yet? Or he's like, well, when are they coming? I'm just like, they've been here.
They're here.
for like 5 days. He's like, what were we going to do if I said no? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. Plan C.
Yeah.
I'm glad that worked out for you.
Me too.
That could have gone a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it could have gone south really fast.
Okay, so after that, you were kind of rocking and rolling. Your bank was on board with cattle feeding at that point then.
Yeah. Me and Chandler fed cattle for a while, and then my acreage that I live at now came up for sale. I bought that. Then I started feeding cattle there. Closed on it. It was May 13th, Friday the 13th is when I closed on it. So whenever bad things happen, we always blame it on Friday the 13th. So I bought that. Then the following Monday, I got cattle in already. I bought like 15 head of steers to background there. And then I was backgrounding those. Then I bought some heifers to feed out. Then I was just feeding with buckets and bales of hay. Then I saw an old feed wagon sitting in some guy's grove. So I asked him, I was like, hey, you ever going to use that? He's like, that's been sitting there for a while. You can see if it works. So I got that. Then I had to rebuild it. Got it ready to go. And then I had a John Deere 3020 with a loader. And then I had to make 3 loads every day. And I only had that one tractor. So I had to unhook the feed wagon, load it, hook it back up, let it mix, then unload it and do that 3 times every day.
Yeah, because you really started with nothing. I mean, like you bought an acreage and had no equipment.
No.
Here's the cattle.
Pretty much.
Because the cattle you were feeding, were they at Chandler's or
Yeah.
custom?
So me and Chandler fed together, and then him and his dad were growing their own operation too. So it kind of worked out the segue between me buying my acreage. So then I could segue into that without having to get out, essentially. So it worked out for everybody.
Yeah. Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
sometimes things just
kind of lines up, falls into place.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but
yeah. Well, hindsight is in the moment. It's like, oh, this is not working.
Yeah, this is not what I had planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, but hindsight, yes, it seems to work out. So yeah, then I did that for a while, then made some money on some cattle. Then I bought another tractor and a better feed wagon, and then just kind of grew from there, I guess.
Okay, so tell me what this process looked like. You can lose money on cattle pretty quick, and this was probably, I mean, was this in that 14, 15, 16 time period, or was this after
Yes.
that? This was right in there.
Yeah, this was during
where
it.
Cattle were high, and
Yeah.
then you lost a whole pile of money, and were you using any price protection strategy
At that time,
at all?
no.
You were just riding the waves.
Yeah,
Okay.
because to be honest, I didn't know there was any way to do it because I knew you could buy like puts and calls and stuff, but you had to buy, what is it, 50,000 pound contract or something?
And you probably weren't up to that level yet at that time either.
I don't even know if I had 50,000 pounds of cattle. So.
Yeah. Okay. So where were you marketing? Were you just taking everything to the sale barn or what?
So the background in steers, I usually just ended up selling them to Bob.
Okay.
And then he would buy them. We worked out a price. That worked pretty good. And then the fat cattle just would go to like Tyson or Skyler.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I love this story. Like
it was very scary at times.
I bet. And were you married yet at this point?
No, I was not.
Okay.
But my wife, we started dating the same summer that I started working for Bob. Okay. So she's
been around for all of it.
Yeah.
Did she ever think you're a little bit crazy?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of times I tell her what my plans are, what I'm going to do. And she's like, as long as you think you got to figure it out.
Yep. What does your operation look like now? Do you still background or are you finishing everything?
No, I feed out everything now.
Okay.
Except for, I guess, we got a little patch of grass out there. And I got 4 little 300-pound Hereford calves for my daughter to look at.
Lawn ornaments.
Yeah. So run them out there in the summer, and then I either put them in with the pen if they fit, or I'll sell them.
Okay. Yep.
But mainly just feed them out.
What's your least favorite part of farming?
Loading hogs.
Loading hogs. That's it. That's the worst.
Yeah. If I could give that job up, I would.
What do you think is the most time consuming? What do you spend the most time doing?
Probably like hauling manure and keeping the yards in shape, I guess. I don't hate doing it, but I would say that is probably one of the...
It's a chore.
Yeah, it's just something that needs to be done.
Yep. Okay, so do you have all outside pens?
Yeah, everything's outside. Dirt and cement.
Okay.
So every yard has like a concrete apron with the bunks on it, then the rest of it's dirt.
Yep.
When they're good, they're great.
Right.
But when they're bad, they're bad.
Yeah.
That's the thing with all these barns is they just never have a bad day.
Yeah.
So.
True. Okay, so we touched on marketing a little bit earlier. Do you use any hedge strategy now?
LRP and packer contracts, basically.
Okay. Which is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. That's why I do it. Just because it's kind of dummy proof, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. Do you ever look back at what you did though and think, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that?
Yeah.
Hindsight, right?
I got some right now. I did some packer contracts for January or February of next year. I think I did those for like 203 or something. And I was tickled pink when I did it. Now I think, I don't know, what are they, 215 now or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's easy for me to do because usually Smoke buys the cattle, tells me the break even. So I crunch the numbers, figure out the best strategy, call in, put them on, and then move on with my life. It's out of sight, out of mind. And then he tells me when we sell them. And then he's usually pissed because we got to pay a hedge loss. And I'm like, well, but you were happy when
at the time
we locked them in for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with any marketing, if it's like grain or anything. When you sell it, you were happy with the decision at the time. That's why you did it. So you just kind of have to roll with it, I guess.
Yep. And move on with your life. So that's the problem we're running into now is everything keeps going up and everybody, we just had to pay a whole pile of hedge loss. And it's like, what do we do now?
With these markets being so high and with these cattle costs, you got to protect yourself some way.
Yeah, because if it goes bad, it's going to go real bad.
Yeah, real fast too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Supply and demand, basic economics says that it's not going down anytime soon.
Right, that's what they say.
But we are no stranger to black swan events lately either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know, there's just a lot of things.
It just takes one thing.
Yep, there's a lot of things that could derail it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved with Cattlemen's?
I showed up to a meeting and they never let me leave.
For our size of county, do you think that there's a lot of involvement in our Cattlemen's Association?
I think so, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't seem like we do a lot, but then at the end of the year, when we're planning our banquet and we start listing all the grilling events and stuff we do, it's quite a bit.
So what all do you guys do throughout the year?
A lot of grilling events. That's the big one. The one thing that we started last year is the Beef Builder program, which I thought was pretty neat. It's for people 12 to 25 years old. On the Carroll County Cattlemen's Facebook page, there's an application for the Beef Builder program if anybody's interested in it.
Perfect. I'll link it in the show notes too.
And then what it is basically a 5-year interest-free loan for $7,500. And basically they can use that to buy, if they want to buy heifers and breed them, or just buy feeder cattle and just raise them that way and just do it. Then after 5 years, they got to pay us back.
So it's a loan basically through Cattlemen's.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's basically set up for young people that aren't already involved in the cattle industry for them to get their foot in the door, basically.
Okay. Do you have anybody that is mentoring these people too along with that? Or is it just they're kind of, you give them the money and they're on their own?
So they have to fill out an application. And then in the application, I think they have to get like a recommendation from like a veterinarian. I don't know. I think there's like 3 different
like references.
Yeah.
Basically.
So basically like mentors, and then they have to put where they're going to put these cattle and how they're going to take care of them and all this stuff.
A business plan, essentially.
Yeah, essentially,
like, yeah. It's no different than going to the bank. Like, this is what I'm going to do and this is why it's going to work.
Yeah. So that's basically what they do, except we're the bank, I guess.
Yeah. That is actually, I mean, for one, a good way to get their foot in the door and get started, but also just real world experience.
Right.
I mean, yeah, after this loan's up, and probably even in this duration, if they really are serious about it, they're going to have to go to a bank and figure that out.
Right.
Which, I was an ag lender. It makes a huge difference if you come in knowing your numbers and if you don't.
That's one of my New Year's resolutions is I have a monthly budget and cash flow that I fill out every month to see where I'm at. That way, if anything ever comes up that I want to try to buy or something, I just can go to the bank and be like, this is where I'm at. This is what I need. And there's no...
You don't have to ask them like, hey, can I do this? You know you can do this.
Right.
Because you know exactly where you're at. Yeah, that's a great program. Who came up with that idea?
It kind of... The Farm Bureau they have a similar thing, and I don't remember who brought it up, but basically we kind of just took that and refined it, because the heifer program that Farm Bureau has is good, but like, what if somebody's just truly not interested in having cow calves?
Yep.
If all they want to do is feed cattle, so this is a way, if that's what they want to do, they can do it.
I love that. That's important to have too.
Then our banquet in the winter,
which is you have like a prime rib supper, and then you do the trophy auction for
4-H and FFA. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you guys are big supporters of that.
We are. Well, I'll tell you what. One thing that rant this year, cattle were up. There is no reason why these cattle feeders shouldn't be bidding on trophies, but here I am just putting in a bid every time, and then nobody else bids, and I'm stuck with it.
Right.
Poor Teddy A-Shide, I got him a couple times. Like, it was just back and forth between me and him, just trying to bump it up, and he got stuck with a lot.
Yeah, he did end up with a few. He usually tries to buy one, but I think he got like 2 or 3.
Yeah, he did. So, I don't know. It's a good time. I'm a sucker for auctions. Once my hand starts going up, it doesn't know how to stop.
Is that why Smoke doesn't send you to cattle sales?
That's exactly why. We'll stop once in a while. Like, if I go with him in the gooseneck or something and we stop by a sale barn, we'll go and talk to our buyer, and I'm sitting there, those two will be shooting the shit. And I'm like, hey guys, there's cattle in the ring. Like, should somebody bid? Somebody pay attention. And they're like, no, stick to your own job. Like, okay. Why do you think it's important for producers to be involved, like in Cattlemen's or other industry committees?
I guess if we're not going to talk about what we do and how we do it, who will? I mean, that's the way I see it, I guess.
If you don't tell people your version, somebody that doesn't actually live it is going to come up with a narrative.
Right.
And tell it for you.
Exactly.
I mean, I think obviously you think it's important to advocate for cattle feeders because you're involved, but I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Have you ever had any what in the world just happened moments?
Oh, the one time we went out of town for a few days, so I had a buddy doing my chores. And then he calls me. He's like, "Hey, do you have a fire extinguisher?" I'm like, "I think there's one in the house underneath the sink." Then boop, 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 he hung up. I'm like, what the hell? So I call him back, doesn't answer. Call him back again, doesn't answer. Call him back again. He answers, "Your tractor's on fire. I'll call you back."
Oh, no.
So then he calls me. He's like, I got the fire out. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, send me a picture of it. And it's just all burnt. And then I'm like, does it run? He's like, I got it to start. He's like, I pulled it up by the house. I sprayed it down with a bunch of water. I left. And I'm just like, how close is it to the house?
Yeah, right.
He's like, it's far enough away. I think at that time I did have another tractor. So then he just switched him or whatever. And then, so yeah, when we got back, I had that to look forward to. Then another time was a couple years ago when it got real hot. And all them cattle, a lot of people lost a bunch of cattle from the heat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was a like, oh, what am I going to do now? Because it was on a Friday, and then that morning I sold them.
Oh.
I sold like 2 loads out of it. I didn't sell them all, but I sold like 2 loads, and then went and checked them, and they seemed fine earlier. Then I came back, and like the wind just died, and it just got really hot and humid. Then all of a sudden I went down there, and I'm like, oh my God.
I remember that. That was bad. I mean, a lot of people lost cattle.
Yeah, that was on a Friday. And that Saturday night, it was like 11:30. I got a call, and someone's like, "You got cattle out." And I'm like, what the f-? I was like, you're kidding. I was like, this has to be a joke. And they're like, no. They're like, they're out. So that was a bad weekend.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that something that people don't realize is probably how many pictures of dead cattle that cattle feeders have on their phones. Like, you have to show that for insurance or your banker or whatever, like proof that they died. So we just got a whole camera roll of dead cattle.
Well, and the people I feed pigs for, if you have a bunch of dead ones, you have to post them yourself. So you have to take pictures and send them. So I just got pictures of
dead pigs.
Cut open pigs.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. Like, I have my Google Photos like backed up. So everything I take a picture of or screenshot or whatever, like, gets backed up into this Google photo. So even if I go and delete it, like,
oh, it's still there?
It's still there forever. So, like, I'll go back into my Google Photos when I can't find something. And, like, if I don't know, last summer we had one go down in the alleyway and Smoke wasn't around. I sent him a picture of it. I'm like, oh, kind of forgot about that. But that's a nice little memory to pop up. When I worked for Producers, I had a guy, he custom fed, and he was a customer, but the guy he custom fed for too was one of my customers. And he was really good about anytime, like, he sent a feed bill or whatever, if there was a dead, he was sending a picture with it. He's like, I don't want anybody thinking that I'm doing something fishy. Which, I don't know, with this one pen one time, there was a lot of deads. He would take a picture of the tag and everything. I'm like, that's actually a really good practice.
Yeah.
Just so there is no confusion on what's going on, what happened to those cattle. Because, I don't know, majority of the people in this industry are good, but you get a couple bad ones from time to time.
That's true.
What challenges do you think producers face right now?
This is probably more, I wouldn't say personal, but just because kind of how I got going. But it's tough for young people if you don't have a dad or grandpa or uncle or somebody doing it to, like, go out and do it
and get started. Yeah. Well, and it's not even probably the financial hurdle is huge in itself, but just the amount of knowledge that you have to have. I mean, there are so many different things that can go wrong that you can't control, really. I mean, but just like you said when you got started, like, I didn't know LRP or hedging or whatever was even an option. I didn't know that existed.
Well, I just always thought, too, it's just, you wake up, you feed them, you sell them, you know? And back when I started, there was, there's still a lot of risk out there, but the markets, I don't think were as volatile as they are now.
That's true. I think back 10 plus years ago, it was a little bit easier to just buy them, feed them, sell them.
Right.
I mean, you could get away with it then. You might not be making as much as you could, or...
Right, or you might in a year, if you feed, a few groups or whatever, there might be one group that you lose some on, but the rest of them kind of made up for it. So
it
just kind of went,
out. But yeah, anymore, the risk is so much higher. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could get into a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even, you got to have a good vet. You probably need some sort of nutritionist.
You need a good banker.
Yeah, a banker is huge too. And somebody that gets it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge part of it.
There's young people out there that want to do it, but I'm not trying to bash on any generations or nothing. But I think the younger people, they think it's cool to sit in a tractor and drive a tractor and have the auto steer on. I don't know if they really want to be out there in a blizzard feeding cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So which it's not real glamorous, but
it's not. You're right. But you are right. I mean, the technology that you get in row crop and, it is a little more glamorous and it looks cool. And
right. And it
have kind of a set schedule. I mean, it's a seasonal business. You have time in the winter and the summer to yourself.
Right. And I mean, row crop, you do put in long hours and stuff, but because I farm too, so, but
you can speak on this. You're not just dogging on row crop.
Yeah. I do it. And let me tell you, it's pretty easy sitting in that tractor hitting the auto steer button.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and whereas livestock is 24/7, 365, the weather doesn't always cooperate. It's either hot and you lose some, or it's cold and you lose some. And
yeah.
It's not a lot of fun always.
No, especially in blizzards we had this last winter. Was it every week? Mm-hmm. For 3 weeks we had another blizzard, and
you'd just get snow cleaned up and then it came down again. Yep. Just piled up.
And it was late winter too.
Yeah.
So
it was March.
Yeah, and it wasn't froze and the yards are just mud and whatever. You got to go out there and do it. But it's just the amount of money you just spend just driving around, moving snow, and then the amount of bedding you got to put out there to keep them comfortable. It's just this is unnecessary money I'm spending.
Right.
But you have to do it. So it just...
Yeah, and you don't see, technology is making it easier for farmers.
Mm-hmm.
With livestock, we have technology that has made it easier, don't get me wrong, but you're still doing the manual labor. You can't get away from that.
No.
I don't think you can send some robot to mix feed and get the right ration and put it in the bunk. You're going to have...
Yeah, dairies have them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just got they got a commodity shed. Then there's a claw machine, and it picks it up, then it puts it in the feed wagon.
Really?
Mixes it up. Then the feed wagon, there's a metal track that it drives on. Then it drives down. Then it...
Oh.
Yeah, then you tell it what to feed and how much.
I wonder what something like that costs.
I don't know. It's got to be a lot.
The dairy industry they've automated a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've got robotic milkers now, and, you got to have somebody there to watch, make sure everything's working. But I think the labor, they've cut down on that significantly.
Yeah.
Good for them. Again, you got to be one of those bigger operations to make that work. Too.
Right. I don't think you can do that with a 100-cow dairy. I don't know.
I wouldn't think it would be as cost effective.
Right. Once they get that robot feeding and a slatted barn, it might be the end.
Or, yeah.
Because then it might get more integrated like the hogs.
Well, that's true.
But with cattle you cannot integrate a cow-calf operation. You can try all you want, but if you don't have somebody that truly cares about making sure that calf lives.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have a lot of feedlot calves, and I don't know, there's a lot that would not make it if we left them out there to fend for themselves. And we buy old cows that, some of them are good moms. They just, something's wrong with them. That's why they were cold in the first place.
Right. I feed heifers. So then every once in a while, you do end up with getting a calf or whatever. But majority of the time, it gets born at night. And then it's either in the winter or it's raining. Mm-hmm. So then the next day you look and you're like, what's laying out there? And then it's a calf, and usually they're dead.
Yep.
Which I'm always just look around. I try to find the heifer, and she's
you can never tell which one it is.
So then
they're all I don't know what that is.
So I always call it a win. I don't have to deal with this baby calf, and the heifer's still eating.
Yeah. That's what I just had somebody message me the other day. She said, we had a feedlot heifer calf today, and made me think of you. And she goes, the calf didn't make it. But I said, well, as long as the heifer's still rocking and rolling,
that's all that matters.
You're not out anything. You don't have a bonus, but you're not out anything.
Well, then, yeah. I don't think the bonuses are as good as bonuses as they are for old cows. Yeah. The calves are always small.
Oh, my God. We've got a load of heifers that we got from out east, and they're 800-pound heifers, and they're having calves. We've had 2 calves now, and they're the tiniest little things you've ever seen.
I had the one time I got a load of 650-pound heifers in from out east, and then it was like a week later, whatever, there was a leg sticking out. I'm like, that's a big looking hoof. So then called the vet, and they had to pull it out. And then I weighed that calf. That calf weighed 98 pounds coming out of a 650-pound heifer.
How is that even possible?
I don't know, but it was a hard pull, but she made it.
Dang. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Then the one time they're like 800 or 850-pound heifers from out east. And then the cattle buyer pregged them. And then I think it was like a week later, this heifer had a calf, just perfectly fine calf. She had a calf, was nursing everything. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of the story.
Oh, man. I mean, any other organizations you think are worthy of getting involved in?
I guess if it's something that you truly believe in, I guess they're all good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all have a place.
Right.
You're right.
And if it's something you're passionate about, you should probably do something. Because like I said before, if you're not going to talk about it, nobody else will.
Would you say you're more passionate about cattle or farming?
Cattle, 100%.
Do you just kind of farm to have your own feed?
Basically, that's what it is now, yeah. But, I mean, if in the future it ever happens, I could pick up some more ground and farm to farm, that'd be great too. But
they're complementary businesses. So
right.
That helps.
Right.
What's your favorite time of the year on the farm?
When I was younger, it was fall. But now I would say it's spring. You just got out of winter. You got the whole summer ahead of you. So winter's over. So you just got through another winter. And then everything just starts greening up. And I do love planting. I get to be by myself. Nobody bothers me.
Peaceful.
Yeah. We're in the fall. There's just a lot of moving parts going on. And it's just.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, combines are cool as a kid, but there's something as you get older, just some peace and quiet is
right.
Nice. Oh, let's talk about your favorite cut of beef.
A ribeye.
All day. Ribeye.
On the charcoal. I just got into charcoal grills recently. I don't know if that's a thing you do when you get older, but.
Yeah, you're in your dad era.
Yeah.
Big grill master now. What about cattle breed?
I like feeding a Charolais cross.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is that?
They get big. They got to have a black nose, though. I mean, I got a pen of all black cattle right now, and they're fun to look at, but...
How did you find that? I mean, just trial and error, or how did you figure that out?
Oh, because, I mean, I always usually end up with some in the pen, every once in a while, and then it just seems like they're always just big. Then I fed a pen, it was 80% of them, and they did really well. So, I mean, but it's hard to find a whole group of them,
Right, yeah, they're usually sprinkled in.
Right.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know, I've got a lot of advice, I guess. I don't know what's the best. I guess you just got to work hard if you want it.
Is there any advice that you give?
You just got to do the work. If you want it, you just got to do the work. It seems so simple, but sometimes people just don't want to do the work, I guess.
Well, I think it's common that people look at what you have and they don't realize that you started with
nothing.
A bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, a nice feed wagon's nice, but you don't start with that.
Right.
You got to work for it.
Right. Yeah, same thing. Equipment and stuff. All the shiny equipment's nice, but don't just buy it just to have it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's probably a lesson for all. I mean, yeah, you get taxes and all the different games you have to play, but
avoiding taxes and taking on a loan isn't really a good idea.
Yeah, there's a trade. Yeah, you're not gaining necessarily just because you don't want to pay the government. I don't necessarily want to pay the bank either.
Right. Yeah, no kidding.
So I feel like that's a game that a lot of people are playing.
I don't know. And somebody told me one time when it comes to the markets, they said bulls make money, bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered. Which basically you can make money on an up or down market, but if you get greedy.
That's a good one. I really like that. You could put that on a sign.
Yeah, you could.
Does your wife help out quite a bit?
She used to help out a lot more before we had our daughter, just because.
Yeah, kids kind of throw a wrench in things.
Yeah, they take up some time.
They are a lot of fun, but you really got to get to a certain age before you can bring them along.
Right.
I mean, it is not easy when they're little.
No, we brought her everywhere when she was a baby.
Well, yeah. Then there's that stage in between where it's whenever they start being mobile, they just ruin everything.
Right. Because we go sometimes we go to the sale barn and stuff, and we'll bring her along. Like Anita used to have sales on Saturday, so we bring her along. And then 2 years ago, we brought her, and it was fine. She just sat there and just watched the cattle come in. Then this last year, we brought her, and then she just wants to run around and be everywhere. And then finally, they just left and went out in the pickup because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I got to pay attention here.
Yeah, right, exactly. And there's only so many snacks that keep them occupied. We take our boys to the sale every once in a while, and it's like, okay, well, I spent more money on snacks than I did on cattle I bought today,
right.
Which is hard to do.
Right. Yeah, we do a thing every Sunday. We put on Snapchat our weekly crop updates. She stands out in the corn, smiles, and post it on there, and everybody, you forget how many people you have on Snapchat because we'll just be like out in public. They're like, can't wait for the crop update later. And it's like,
oh, yeah, I forgot I was supposed to do that.
See how we started that last year randomly. We did it like 2 weeks in a row. And then people are like, you got to keep doing it. We're like, yeah, this will be fun. And then there's sometimes, we always do it on Sundays. Then you'll be like, bath time's done. You'll be settling down.
I don't really want to go stick you in the dirt right now.
You're just like, but you got to keep the people happy.
Right.
But we'll keep doing it because there will become a day where she will refuse to do it. So
that's true. Hopefully that day is a little later.
Hopefully.
They have a mind of their own.
Mm-hmm. I did propose to my wife on the farm.
On your farm?
Yeah. So I had this all planned out. I got a custom ear tag made that said, like, will you marry me? So I got a heifer in, had it in the head gate, and then I had to go put this ear tag in it. But first I went in the house. I'm like, hey, Kate, you got to come out here. I was like, I need to trim this heifer's toes. I need you to hold the rope to hold this foot up. She's like, oh, whatever, I'll get ready. So then I went back to this little like cowboy shack I got, and I got the ear tag, and I got my tagger. I'm just like, oh no, this is the wrong tagger for this ear tag.
Oh no.
So I'm like, how am I going to do this? Then I'm like trying to figure this out. I look in the window, and then she comes out of the house. She's walking over to this shed. I'm like, so then I get out of the shed. I'm like, hey, just go back in the house. It'll be a little bit. I was like, I got to like mix some stuff up to put on its foot. She's like, I'll just come in there. And I'm just like, it's kind of gross when you mix it up. You don't want to see it. So she's like, whatever. So she goes back in the house, and then I'm like, what am I going to do here? So then I'm like scrambling. Then I found some caulk, and then the actual ear tags I used, and I caulked it to the ear tag. Then I tagged it with that. So then when I'm doing this, I'm like, really probably should have had this ready before I even got her.
Right. Yeah.
So then whatever, I get it. I was like, all right, you can come down or whatever. So then she came down, and then she read the ear tag, and that was it.
Said yes.
Yeah.
That is creative.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been a little more thought out.
Yeah, but that's kind of.
I mean, yeah. I'm impressed with that. Actually, that's. Did you come up with that all on your own?
Yeah.
Did you keep the ear tag?
Yeah, we still got it.
Okay.
Then at our wedding for the wedding favors, we got custom ear tags made, and it said from the cattle lot to tying the knot.
Ah, clever. Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You have a really great story and an important one, especially for young people who think they want to get into feeding cattle and farming. And you're just proof that if you do put enough hard work in, you can make it happen.
I was nervous.
Fun.
Wasn't bad, though.
Good. I told you it was going to be pretty harmless.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. If you found value in this story, be sure to share it with a future cattle feeder or someone just getting started. Till next time. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Rural Dispatch. I hope you found something valuable to take back to your own operation. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. You can keep up with me between episodes on socials at Barons & Co. or join our email list on our website to get new episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Wednesday. Until next time, keep those wheels turning. We'll talk soon.